I think ego is at the centre of a great many people when it comes down to these spiritual gurus and teachers. A great many of them, not necessarily all of them, they gain some kind of ego boost by thinking they're very important people. And those people who claim to be literally the reincarnation of Jesus, a new Buddha, some kind of voice of God or prophet for God or whatever the case may be, those sorts of people who claim to be these massive communicators, hugely important in terms of the destiny of our planet, and perhaps even our galaxy and beyond, they certainly have an ego problem. And if you can't see that, then I think you might have a problem too. Because part of the problem is the kind of people who make those remarkable claims. But the other problem is the people who actually are willing to follow them, willing to take for granted that someone who claims to be a alien being incarnated into a human body with a mission to save the world might be telling the truth. Because they say good things, they've got an interesting philosophy. So do you actually believe they're an alien in a human body? Well, why would they lie? Well, their bills are being paid by making up this scam. They're selling books and products and maybe t-shirts and mugs. They're getting donations. And they're getting people who are lackeys, their top supporters, to maintain their home and treat them like they're more than simply human. Gee, yeah, I couldn't imagine why they would want to lie, you know? Because some people are like that. Some people are like that. And even if it doesn't go that far, even if they're a small operator, not very charismatic, but they're still making remarkable claims, gets them a lot of attention online, some people support them, many people criticise them, it's about being the centre of attention. It's not always ego in the straightforward sense, or they want to be the new L. Ron Hubbard. Some people aren't made for that. They're not cut from that kind of cloth where they can manipulate so many people and create a large organisation. Some people just create a small following and they keep on making remarkable claims because some gullible people who either like watching a dumpster fire or something keep on giving donations. Because otherwise, why else would you give money? Maybe you believe in it. Many people do. Many people believe in all sorts of different things and they're willing to follow the ideas of some of these spiritual teachers, spiritual gurus and their radical teachings. The only good news about most radical teachings, most teachings in general, as far as spirituality, they're not really harmful. They might create a level of resistance to modern medicine or to the political process or whatever the case may be, a greater acceptance of conspiracy theories and the like, but broadly speaking, could be a lot worse. A lot of these ideas, the idea of knowing more, thinking you're more intelligent than you actually are, thinking you know more about the world than you actually do, it's a thing that can boost confidence, to be sure. It can build up the ego. The ego isn't a bad thing. It's a toxic ego that's a bad thing. Unfortunately, some people going through that kind of idea of building up their confidence will sometimes latch onto things, think they're greater than they actually are, think that they themselves are a greater being than they actually are in that sense, and they'll pass on information as if they're some kind of genius or something, when in actuality, they're a fucking idiot. They're passing on things they don't really know, but they choose to believe they know them. And a person who's basically a spiritual person will pass on ideas very much like a person who is a hardcore religious person. They become a fundamentalist of a particular type of thought, and as a result they are kind of, chasing the dragon of their ego. And you know, it is like a drug. To follow something and believe something and to think you have a sense, you do have a sense of certainty, but to believe that you are absolutely certain about this is absolute truth, this is something that we're on the edge of. And I think that's why some of these, conspiracy nuts, some of these pseudo-historians, some of these people who have these podcasts where they share absolute nonsense, and, these documentaries which are full of loads of false claims. That's why that's very attractive too, but typically when you're watching those things, when you're interacting with those things, you're not giving a bunch of money to some kind of cult leader. That's true, but the sense of certainty is an important thing, and that's why you end up with people who do follow, who do become cult members, operating underneath scammers and, cult leaders. And essentially a cult leader is a kind of scammer anyway, if you want to boil it down to the bare constituents, to the bare bones. Because a cult leader typically doesn't really believe in everything they do unless they're massively deluded. And of those people who are massively deluded, even so, very often their sense of security within that belief is not entirely as secure as they make out. because they've got these elaborate stories, elaborate ideas, but they know on some level, unless they're really psychotic, basically, they know what they're passing on is not the truth, or not the absolute truth. And I would not say that most of the people I've seen out there, in terms of scammers and con artists in general, are truly massively deluded to the point of psychosis. They're too lucid. They're too manipulating. They're too willing to move the goalposts in a way which suggests they're perfectly aware, perfectly conscious of pretty much everything they're doing.
This is a documentary piece by the BBC.
No, not at all.